Right, we are going to continue in our series of doing talents, and we are going to now move on to Horde. We started with Alliance, let's do Horde. Horde week is next week, so I think the dungeon is going to be Horde focused, etc. So it's a good week to talk about Horde minions. Let's start off with the basic minions, and then we'll run through the leaders. I'll run through the ones that I've currently got in this Sneed deck. This Sneed deck isn't great, by the way. I don't really play much Horde, but we'll run through. We'll start with Dark Spear Troll. Now, in my opinion, the worst Dark Spear Troll talent is Big Bad Voodoo. Mostly because he's such a low HP minion, you're not actually getting a huge amount of effectiveness out of Big Bad Voodoo. Definitely means he can trade up in certain scenarios, but I think in general, Headhunting and Serpent Sting are the two better talents to go for. On kill, increase attack speed and movement speed by 10%, and it stacks up to 50%, which can kind of make this guy a bit of a machine if you can protect him for long enough. Or, if you're looking for a bit of a tank crusher, Serpent Sting gives him poison. It makes him much more effective against tanks, and obviously he can stack poison quite easily and refresh the duration on it because he attacks relatively quickly. Both of them are good. Really depends on what you want to do with him. But if you've not got much of a tank killer in your deck, then obviously the poison's going to help. If you're looking to have him ramp up and you protect him with a front line like a big tank, then I like Headhunting as well. Big Bad Voodoo is not terrible, but he's just not a super high HP minion. So it means he'll trade up versus certain matchups that he wouldn't have been able to trade up to versus before. But I think overall, Headhunting and Serpent Sting are better talents. Quite a difficult choice. There's quite a lot of good talents on Dark Spear Troll. Stonehoof Tauren. I think I chose the worst talents possible on Stonehoof Tauren, which is really annoying because Pummel is probably one of the better ones. So after you charge, you stun the target for 3 seconds. Now, that's really good, especially if you're going to charge a frontline minion that does a lot of damage, like it's good versus an Abomination, for instance, because you can stun it and then deal a load of damage to it in those 3 seconds. However, I actually think overall, my favorite talent is Momentum. After connecting a charge, immediately charge a second time if possible. Now, there are going to be times where that really annoys you, because he charges away from the primary target, but there's plenty of times where that becomes super useful. I think it should say she actually. It's not actually a he. I don't actually know. I'm gonna stop talking. Momentum, however, means you can connect with a ranged minion in the backline. So actually really useful if you charge a tank and then immediately charge a ranged minion like a Huntress or a Dark Spear Troll or just any kind of ranged minion. It just means you immediately deal with it with this tank. So I actually prefer Momentum. I think Provoke is the worst one because most of the time when you're charging in, you're going to be the first minion making contact with the enemy. So you're basically taunting them anyway. Taunting with Provoke is only good if you are trying to defend against Unbound spam or that the Stonehoof Tauren's coming in as a late minion and you want to kind of take aggro off your ranged minions. But I think overall Momentum is the best talent for Stonehoof Tauren. That's not a Horde minion. Right, let's go down to Warsong Grunts. You've got Blood Pact. When a grunt dies, the other one gains Bloodlust, Guard Duty, and Command. Now, Command is okay if you're willing to play this in a Beast deck, but what I would say with Beast decks is that these guys are quite expensive. They're 5, and most Beast decks don't have the capacity for a 5 gold minion. And if they do, you'd rather spend that 5 gold minion on something like a Huntress, which is just far more useful than Warsong Grunts. I think that Blood Pact is probably the most useful overall. It just means that if one of them dies, the other one can do a little bit more DPS. Guard Duty can be situationally useful, so you can set these guys up around your base and they'll just wait for unbound minions, or you can set them up at a meeting stone and they'll protect it. But obviously, it means you're spending 5 gold for a defensive measure, and in most cases in this game, that's not a good use of 5 gold, and that 5 gold will just sit there on the map for ages. And these guys aren't exactly insane units anyway, so I think Blood Pact's probably the best talent and the one that I have gone for. Goblin Sappers. Without a shadow of a doubt, rocket-powered turbo boots. Move twice as fast and gain the fast trait. So basically, you gain a trait that you can use to gain them levels in decks with the fast slot, and also they move really fast towards their location. So these guys don't attack anything; they run just towards the closest towers, And I think rocket-powered turbo boots make these much more useful than pretty much anything else. Deploy an extra +1 goblin is okay, but if they're moving that slow, they're much more easily dealt with. So I think rocket-powered turbo boots, in my opinion, are the best talent for goblin sappers. Warsong Raider. Now, this is actually interesting because most people say that raising focus is the best, and I would agree because this is primarily going to be a siege unit, and it's a little bit like, it functions a bit like Hog Rider in Clash Royale, where you just run it at an enemy tower. Destroying damaging a tower reduces its damage dealt by 50% for 3 seconds. Kind of okay, but again, you have to get past enemies, and you don't have that ignore enemy trait, so getting this to a tower in the first place is difficult. And then Sunder Armor, damaging an armored enemy removes their armor, situationally useful, not always useful. Raising focus is in general the best talent for this unit. It just makes it more specialized. It is primarily then going to be a tower taking machine. It gets the siege bonus unit, and it just kind of runs at towers, which is great. Chain Lightning. Reverberation is interesting, and it definitely means that if you've got Chain Lightning and it's not going to immediately kill harpies, for instance, you can recast it. I personally think Brilliant Flash is the best talent for Chain Lightning. On deploy, stun enemies within for 1 second. Why is that good? It's good for resetting aggro. This is a 2 mana or 2 gold reset aggro spell. And that's really good for towers. That's very good for tanks. It's very good for a lot of things, really. You'll find that it's actually quite useful overall. So I really like Chain Lightning for that reason. It just helps reset aggro, and the stun can actually be really useful. It can stop long wind-ups on attacks. There are some units that take like 2 seconds to attack, so you can use this at the end of their wind-up, and then they have to wind up the attack all over again. It just adds a nice bit of utility to a 2-cost spell. So I really like it for that reason. So, Bat Rider. Flaming Pitch reduces enemy speed by 30%. Enchanted Vials increase the size of the flaming pool by 30%. And then Fiery Surplus. Personally, I like Flaming Pitch because it gives a bit of utility to Bat Rider. Enchanted Vials is also very good though, but I often find that there isn't that many situations where my units are going to run around the fire pool because most melee units move in very small areas. So I just think that the Flaming Pitch, reducing the enemy's speed by 30% is good. It means they take more damage in the area. But both Enchanted Vials and Flaming Pitch are good. I think Fiery Surplus is kind of crap, so I wouldn't recommend Fiery Surplus. But I think Flaming Pitch and Enchanted Vials are both good talents for Bat Rider. Interesting one, Frostwolf Shaman. Earthwall Totem. Once per deploy, place a totem that partially heals a nearby tower or base. Can be useful, but isn't. Sometimes if you're placing it near a fully healed tower, there's just not much point. In PvP, for the most part, like your base doesn't traditionally take a huge amount of damage. So I think Earthwall Totem is a little bit situational. Lightning Mastery, ranged attacks chain to 3 nearby targets. Well, the attacks are really low power. So again, limited use, and ultimately Huntress is just better at this. And then Earth Shield. Grant armor to a nearby ally. Our ability has 1 charge. I think that this is the best talent. You can run this with Tyrion to give Tyrion armored. You can run it with Abomination, who has the highest base HP in the game, to give Abomination armored, which then like effectively doubles Abomination's HP pool versus physical units. I think it's just the best overall spell for Frostwolf Shaman. This is an interesting one. Execute. I wasn't actually 100% sure when I was buying a talent for Execute, which is why I wouldn't take the overpower, knock enemies away from the cast location seriously. I think that Bloodthirsty is probably the best, just because if you're using it over a battlefield, your allies then also gain Bloodthirst for 10 seconds, which is a long time to gain Bloodthirst. The only issue with that is that it, so often Execute isn't used in the middle of a battle where your actual allies are. Overpower knocks enemies away from the cast location. That actually can be really useful, so that's why I've gone for it. It just adds a bit of utility to the spell. I think Killing Spree is the worst of the lot, just because it has to be a Horde minion that you play next, and it's only 1 gold less, so it's not actually, a massive difference. So I've gone for Overpower, but I think like Bloodthirsty is also a very good talent for Execute. Ogre Mage. Gain Frost, so Frost Firebolt. Meh. Like, it just slows the enemies. I know it's in an AoE, but it only slows them. Ignite, burn enemy targets, not too bad. But Avarice, gain Bloodlust when bloodlusting an ally. I think that personally is the best one. It grants your Ogre Mage Bloodlust as well as an ally Bloodlust. So I think that personally is the talent that I have opted for in this scenario. Now, I just want to make sure I haven't missed any Horde units, because there were absolutely loads of Alliance units and there actually weren't that many Horde units. Okay, looks like I'm fine. So let's have a look at the leader talents. Lead with Greed is the best talent that you can go for on Sneed as a first talent. It is the best PvP talent. It gains you a load of extra gold. It gains you 6 gold when opening up. I think it gains you 6 gold. Yeah, 6 gold when opening up a chest, or at least 4 anyway. So it's just. Oh no, sorry, no. Gain additional 2. Yeah, you gain 6 gold when you open up a chest, which is crazy because you already have that talent on Sneed, which is Lead with Greed, gain an additional 2 gold, and gain 2 gold on the siege unit. Yeah, so you get an additional 2 gold. And obviously, when you take siege, when you take meeting points or take towers with siege units, you're just going to get a load of gold. So Lead with Greed is the best talent. Mine is Money Friend. I just think that a mining trait on Sneed is a complete waste of a talent, so I wouldn't go for that. And Land Grab is okay. Gain a level whenever a non-passive gold is earned. So that can be really useful, and you can level up Sneed to very high levels. It can be really good for certain boss fights. It can be good in PvE, but Lead with Greed is generally the best talent that you're going to want to go for on Sneed. Let's have a look at Cairne Bloodhoof. So, Reincarnation after death, resurrect at 50% health once. Not a bad talent. It's definitely usable in PvP. Plains Running. Move 50% faster and gain the fast trait. Personally, the talent that I'm going to go for. It just makes Cairne really useful. He rushes into battle and in general can be much more effective in PvP. I think that Plains Running is the best talent for Cairne. Aftershock, when stun expires, affected enemies are dazed for 5 seconds. Well, honestly, that doesn't matter too much to me. Stun is better than daze, and if Cairne just continuously stuns units anyway, it's not that big of a deal. So I think Aftershock is ultimately the worst of the 3 talents. But Plains Running, in my opinion, is the best talent that you can go for on Cairne. And Grommash. Gain AoE blade spin ability that damages all nearby enemies. Summon 2 fragile mirror images when entering combat, or deal double damages to enemies that are below 50% health. Well, Blade Storm and Mirror Image are both good, in my opinion. But personally, Mirror Image, I think, is the best. It just adds a little extra, a couple of minions that soak some damage for you, and actually adds a little extra damage to kind of single target ability for Grommash. So I personally think the Mirror Image is the best ability to go for. You see a lot of people that run Grommash go with Mirror Image, but Blade Storm is equally as decent. I think the Savage Strikes is meh. So I think the Savage Strikes is the worst of the 3. But I would recommend Mirror Image first, and then maybe Blade Storm after that. And that is all of the Horde minions. I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't going crazy, because there isn't actually that many Horde minions to talk about, which is kind of wild. But there we go. All of the Horde minions for you, all of the best talents, and I will see you soon for the next episode, which I assume probably will be Blackrock. We might then do Undead, and we'll leave Beast to last. Cheers.